Us, Ms. Fatima, parents, teachers, and my dear students for your presence here today. I'm Ratna Ghosh, head of Capstone High, and I take this opportunity to welcome you all to our webinar session 2, CapSarvekshana. This is our student presentation to showcase their understanding how the world has changed with pandemics. In our session today, our students will be interacting with Ms. Nivedita Mukherjee, an educational consultant for many schools and educational institutions across India, sharing their learning experience in the virtual world through the COVID crisis. They will be connecting their classroom learning to 21st century skills and problem based learning to discuss the real world concerns arising from the pandemics and try to identify probable situational solutions. We are lucky to have Ms. Nivedita as our academic advisor at Capstone High. We welcome you, Ms. Nivedita, for the session today. The session will be moderated by my colleague, Ms. Suchishmita Gupta, who is our middle school coordinator. I request Ms. Suchishmita to take it over.
Thank you, Miss. The COVID-19 crisis has indeed thrown the entire world into great turmoil, and we are all caught in it. It has changed the way human beings interact with each other, and we might feel this effect for years to come. At Capstone, we decided to use this situation as a teaching learning opportunity. Our students have worked in groups to research about various cultural, social, and economic effects of the pandemic. They have conducted primary and secondary research to collect and analyze data and draw well-reasoned conclusions from it. The first group that is presenting today has researched on major pandemics affecting the health of people over time. Students have collected data on the affected population and mortality rate caused by these pandemics and compared it with the present situation of the COVID-19 virus. I will request Shashank to take up the presentation from here.
Good afternoon. I'm Shashank, and today I have Charunya, Edwin, Nihal, Pranav, Tanushri, Trisha, and Jinisha as my teammates. We all have researched and gathered some information on the history of pandemics.
The pandemics have been apart around since the prehistoric times. Around 5,000 years ago, an epidemic wiped out a prehistoric village in China. The bodies of the dead were stuffed inside a house that was later burned. No age group was spared. Skeletons of young adults and middle-aged people were found inside the house. The archaeological site is now called Hamen Manga and is one of the best preserved prehistoric sites in northeastern China. Archaeological study indicates that the pandemic happened quickly enough that there was no time for proper burials and the site was not inhabited again.
Wow.
We are discussing about different pandemics in the past. First, we have the Black Death. This was the most deadliest pandemic in our history. It lasted from 1315 to 1347. About 200 million people died in this pandemic. And then we have smallpox. About 56 million people died in this pandemic. The last case was registered in 1977. From then, it was totally eradicated. HIV/AIDS. First case was reported in the year of 1981. It has grown to become a pandemic, resulting in an estimated 65 million infections. In the 65 million, 25 million people have died. And then Spanish flu. This devastating pandemic lasted a year from 1918 to 1919. About 40 to 50 million people have been infected by the Spanish flu. Ebola. It first occurred in the rural area of southwest Guinea in Africa during 2014. It slowly became a global pandemic within months. And then the most new one, COVID 19. The first case was recorded on 31st December 2019. Till now, 37 million people have been affected.
The bar graph represents the death toll of some pandemics. In the past, the deadliest pandemic of Black Death killed almost 200 people. The outbreak of Black Death wiped out 30 to 40% of European population. Smallpox killed majority of Native Americans during 1800 century. An estimate 4 lakh people were killed by smallpox. In the upcoming slides, we will be discussing about some pandemics and how they have affected the world's population.
This is a microscopic image of plague. Plague is an infectious disease caused by Yersinia pestis bacteria, usually found in small mammals and their fields. The disease is transmitted between animals via their fields, and as it is a zoonotic bacterium, it can also transmit from animals to humans. The Black Death was a devastating global epidemic of bubonic plague that struck Europe and Asia in the mid 13,000s.
Pranav, I think we have
200.
Pranav, if you could take us through the slide. I think the person who's supposed to present has lost connectivity.
Sure. The Black Death was the deadliest pandemic recorded in human history. The Black Death resulted in deaths of up to 75 to 200 million people in Eurasia and North Africa, peaking in Europe from 1347 to 1315. The Black Death wiped out 30% to 60% of Europe's population. The graph represents the pre pandemic and post pandemic status of population in Europe. From the data, it is evident that the population reduced to a great extent. Among the other countries, Belgium and Scotland were the most affected ones. Ebola is an extremely rare but treatable disease. It is very dangerous and is caused by a virus. It's a rare and deadly disease, most commonly affecting humans and non human primates like monkeys, gorillas, and chimpanzees. Ebola is a communicable disease which spreads from one person to another. The average fatality rate is around 50%. The fatality rates have varied from 25% to 90% in past outbreaks. It also damages the immune system and organs. It also causes the number of blood clotting cells to drop. It has an incubation period of 2 to 21 days. The virus got its name from the Ebola River where it was first discovered.
Ebola outbreaks surfaced periodically in Africa in the latter half of the 20th century, but the devastation caused by Ebola in West Africa in 2013 to 2016 brought this deadly disease back to the forefront of the Western public.
Nihal has lost connection. So one of you please continue. Pranav, you can take it up. Students, Nihal has lost
Infected blood.
connection.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes,
The
you are
infected
audible
blood
now.
the infected blood of a sick person is transmits the disease to others rapidly in West Africa. The graph represents the spread of Ebola virus in the West African countries like Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. The death rate was at its peak during October 2014. There were around 700 deaths in Guinea, 2,300 deaths in 2,300 deaths in Liberia, and around 1,000 deaths in Sierra Leone in October 2014.
This graph represents the recovery and the death rate of Ebola in Africa. The year 2014, Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone of Africa had the most impact from this pandemic. Guinea had 2,500 deaths and approximately 3,000 recoveries. Liberia had 2,900 recoveries and 4,950 deaths. Sierra Leone had 8,100 recoveries and 3,600 deaths. The recovery rate is maximum in Sierra compared to the other states.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by the most recently discovered coronavirus. The new virus and disease were unknown before the outbreak began in Wuhan, China. In December 2019, COVID-19 is now COVID-19 is now a pandemic affecting many countries globally.
The first, the first patient The first patient developed symptoms of coronavirus in Wuhan in the December 8th of 2019. A month later, China alerts WHO about several pneumonia cases, which were actually coronavirus cases, and they misunderstood it. Wuhan's wholesale seafood market shut down because of the virus in January 1st. The identification of COVID-19 happened in January 7th, 2020. The first death because of COVID-19 was reported in China in January 11th. The first case outside China was reported in Thailand in January 13th, and COVID-19 became a pandemic. Wuhan was placed under quarantine and all rail and air services stopped. And after that, the death toll of COVID-19 climbs to 132 and 6,000 new cases were reported.
Edwin, if you could please continue.
Yes, ma'am. This map shows us how infectious COVID-19 is. This map shows us how infectious COVID-19 is and about its vast spread across all continents. The major hotspots include our own India, the United States, and Brazil.
Students, some of your friends have lost connection. So Shashank and Edwin, you please walk us through the presentation. They're trying to join back. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Okay. In this graph, we can see that from March to September, there is an increase in the outbreak of COVID-19. The confirmed cases recorded are in are in America. It's 17 million. In Southeast Asia, it is about 7 million. In Europe, it's about 6 million. In Eastern Mediterranean, it is about 2 million. And in Africa, it's about 1 million. It is recorded from the data. We can say that the outbreak of COVID-19 in America is maximum, and in the Western Pacific, it's the least.
From the graph, we can see that 38 million people were affected by the novel coronavirus. There are about 85,000 new cases reported worldwide as of 14th October 2020. Total death toll is 1 million and 28 million have recovered. There are 8 million active cases of coronavirus worldwide today.
This slide represents the total active cases and total closed cases. The blue curve shows the total active cases. In the month of January, the total cases were just 563, and now, in the month of October, the cases has been increased to 8,513,939, which is almost near to 10 million. So the total cases has drastically increased from the month of January to October, which indicates the high rate of spreading of the pandemic. On the other hand, the rate of recovery, which is represented by the green curve, has almost doubled since February, where it was around 58%, which has increased to 96.28%. Mortality rate, which is represented by the orange curve, has decreased since January, where it was about 40%, which has decreased to 3.64% in the month of October. In this graph, the x-axis represents how contagious a virus is, while the y-axis represents the fatality rate, which means the proportion of people who die due to the particular disease. This graph shows that chickenpox and measles are more contagious, where the fatality rate is high for Ebola, bird flu, and smallpox as compared to the coronavirus. This graph tells that there are much deadlier viruses than COVID-19, which took many lives in the past, such as Ebola, smallpox, and bird flu.
Here in this graph, we can see that coronavirus has a more impact globally than of Ebola. Coronavirus has caused 38 crore 361,289 total cases and 1 crore 90,818 deaths and 28 crores 8,046 and 861 recovery, while Ebola has only caused 28,000 cases and 11,000 deaths. The right hand side graph compares the number of deaths due to Black Death, COVID, and Ebola. By this, we can conclude that COVID-19 is not only the deadlier virus, and there are much other viruses which took many lives in the past.
Thank you, team. Now, Ms. Ratna and Ms. Nivedita, if you would want to ask them some question. They have tried to put in a lot of work, but now please ask them some questions about the presentation that they went through.
Miss Nivedita, if you can.
Well, I'm still reeling under the statistics that they have gathered. That's a lot of statistics gathered over the years across the country. So I must tell you, children, you have done a great work of putting together the data, and in a manner you visualize the data so that we can, it's easy for us to look at it and make some inferences. So I'm wondering, there are such less deaths in comparison. So we stop fearing corona since most of us are recovering? What do you think?
Shashank, would you like to address? Pranav?
Should we fear corona or should we not fear corona? We'll get sick
Shashank?
and recover. What do you think? Are you thinking?
Tanushree, would you like to answer that?
Should we stop our school and be worried about coronavirus, or should we not? So that's the question Ms. Nivedita is asking. So tell us what you think.
Ma'am, we should
It doesn't have to
continue.
be right. It's just your perspective.
We should continue with our online classes and gather more information.
Right. Well, that's a very interesting answer. That is, gather more information, because we really don't have enough information about this virus, right? So we don't know how it will impact us. Maybe it will have a less impact. Maybe it will have a more impact. We don't know. We haven't had the scientists studying it for long enough time. So I think we have to give the scientists a longer time to figure it out so that we can be then brave and come out. Uh, we can be rather safe and come out. We don't have to be brave and come out. We can be safe and come out. No? What about this pandemic situation? Like we're calling this a pandemic, and whereas in Ebola and SARS, they didn't become a pandemic, right? So why do you think that happens? Okay, we have lost all children.
Tanushi is there. Tanu?
Tanushree, would you like to answer that? Shashank is back.
Yeah, they have poor connectivity, I guess.
Right.
But it's
Tanushree,
fine.
would you like to discuss that?
Shashank is, I think Tanushi lost connection. Shashank, you can, Ms. Ratna, if you could repeat Ms. Nivedita's question.
Yeah, Ms. Nivedita just put forth a question that you had been discussing about the major pandemics, I think major pandemics that has affected the health of the people over time. Ms. Nivedita's question was, why do certain viruses like Ebola or SARS has not become pandemic?
Yes, ma'am. SARS or Ebola, ma'am, didn't cause the same level of devastation as that of COVID-19 because they're not easily transmitted. Rather than moving by casual person to person transmission, SARS spread from much closer contact between family members or healthcare workers and patients. These viruses also aren't spread through pre-symptomatic transmission, meaning infected people don't spread it because they have symptoms. Once people got sick, that typically stayed home or were hospitalized, making it harder for them to spread the virus around.
Right. Yeah, that's a thing which we are wondering about, right? There are so many asymptomatic people, and we don't know who is transmitting what. So it's we're yeah,
I
great.
think
Thank you.
personal safety and hygiene is most important. We need to
Right.
be careful to avoid, because this is a disease that is probably going to stay, and we need to be more careful and maintain safety and hygiene all around us.
Right. Thank you.
So Pranav is here. So, would you like to ask
Yes.
Pranav any question, Ms. Nivedita? Pranav has joined back.
How long did it take your team to work on this data? I've been thinking about it. It's a lot of data to gather.
Pranav?
Uh,
Pranav,
Ma'am,
your video is
yes, ma'am.
switched off there. If you could
Oh,
please switch on your video.
yes, ma'am, I can. Just a second.
This is the challenge of
Yes,
technology,
ma'am.
miss.
That's all right.
Yes, ma'am.
So, how long did it take to gather so much of data for all of you?
Uh,
How much
uh,
time did it
the
take?
So our whole presentation was like we had many teams, and then we eventually put all our presentations together. So from my team, because I'm not so sure about the other team, and yesterday I know a bit, but that time we had started on, I guess I would say, about 11th or 10th, so about 6 days, and we would work during self studies, and sometimes, and some on where when we were getting really close to the like the CapSarvekshana official date, that is today, we started even working even towards the we started working towards the later night and evening at least, so we
Oh,
would do that.
Actually, Miss Nivedita, they had finished their PA2 just on 5th, and only after that they started working on this.
wonderful. I think this should have been your peer too. Everybody would have come first. A plus marks.
This is going to, we are going to consider this as their like problem based learning for PA3 internal assessment.
Very, very good. Very good. Because this is a lot of real life learning that they have done and shared the learning with us. Thank you. Thank
And
you.
miss, I would like to mention that many of them were working even after 6 o'clock. You know, getting in touch with each other, forming their little Google Hangouts, and doing all that collaborative work. Good job, Pranav.
Good job.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Pranav. So we will have the next team coming in. Meanwhile, I'll just introduce what the next team they will be doing. The next team, they have worked on the COVID-19 vaccine development. So how much progress we have done so far, and what is the data, what is the different stages of vaccine development. Their research has been on basis of that. So over to Niharika.
Yes, ma'am. Just 1 second. I'll share my screen.
I'm waiting with bated breath because the hope of vaccine is coming up now.
Is it seen, ma'am, like my presentation?
Not as yet, Niharika. Yeah, now it's coming up. Yeah, we can see it, Niharika. Carry on.
Yes. Good afternoon to everyone present here. I'm Niharika. Today, my team and I, which consists of Anusha, Grishma, Kirtan, Ayush, Guru Kiran, Jashwin, and myself, Niharika, will present on the topic Research and Development of COVID Vaccine, the development for medical tests to identify COVID-19 positive cases, reflecting on the current progress made in the research and development of vaccines for COVID-19.
First case can be traced back to 17th November 2019. It was first said to be started in Wuhan, China. Experts say SARS-CoV-2, also known as COVID-19, first originated in bats.
A TrueNAT test is a small and portable chip-based machine, mostly runs on batteries. It detects the virus in nasal and oral swabs. The machine are required to detect the RDRP enzyme found in virus RNA. The TrueNAT test provides results within 60 minutes. The test kits come for about 1,300 rupees.
Ayush, Guru, I think has not been able to join because of connectivity issue. If you could just continue with it. Thank you so much.
Okay, ma'am. One second. Rapid antigen test. The rapid antigen detection seeks to detect the virus rather than the antibodies provided by body. It has been approved by ICMR for use of in containment zones and healthcare settings. Nasal samples are collected and tested for antigens. For antigen tests, the maximum duration for interpreting a positive or negative test is 30 minutes. Each kit costs rupees 450.
Rapid antibody test. Rapid anti tests are fast, not very expensive, can be used to check extent of infection within a community. Rapid antibody test involves taking a blood sample from the finger and putting it in the testing template. The blood is then examining for two types of antibodies. Antibody tests can give result in 20 to 30 minutes and cost just 5 rupees.
This graph is a representation of the number of daily COVID cases in the last few months. The x-axis in this graph represents the dates in the past few months, and the y-axis represents the number of COVID cases. And as you can see, the number of new cases in June and July were below 2 lakh, but in August and September and October, it reached more than 4 lakhs. This graph shows all the countries that are currently most affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The x-axis in this graph represents the countries that have been affected by the pandemic, and the y-axis in this graph represents the number of COVID cases in each country. As you can see, the United States is on the top, and India is the second most affected country in the world. This slide shows This slide shows all the countries that are not affected by the coronavirus pandemic, and these include Marshall Islands, Micronesia, North Korea, Samoa, Tonga, etc.
Mostly all countries have tried to come up with a vaccine for coronavirus, but haven't had any success with the vaccine. Here are a few potential vaccines. Covaxin. It is being developed in India in the institutions of Bharat Biotech and National Institute of Virology. PNT162. It is being developed in Germany in the institutions of BioNTech.
Bacillus calmette-guerin is also known as BCG vaccine, currently being developed in North America in Fostman Lab at Massachusetts General Hospital. AD5 nCoV is currently being developed in China in Tongji Hospital.
Sputnik 5, which is being developed in Russia in the institution of Gamela National Center of Microbiology. CoronaVac, which is also being developed in China in the institution of Sinovac Research and Development. Here are a few vaccines in detail.
Covaxin. Bharat Biotech, an Indian biotechnology company which is partnering with the National Institute of Virology in India and the Indian Council of Medical Research to develop a COVID-19 vaccine called Covaxin. It is currently in phase 2 of clinical trial. Results of a two-dose regimen given to rhesus macaque, an Old World species of monkeys, showed to have neutralized the antibodies and reduced viral replication in the nasal cavity, the throat, and the lung. Covaxin will use adjuvant hydroxyum 2 to boost immune response and longer-lasting immunity.
BNT162 is a potential vaccine that is being prepared in BioNTech in Germany to prevent COVID-19 disease infection. The vaccine is based on a new technology called mRNA. It is currently in phase 2 of the clinical trial. mRNA is an RNA version of gene that leaves the cell nucleus and moves to the cytoplasm where the proteins are made. RNA-based vaccines are safer for the patient as they are not produced using infectious elements.
Sputnik 5. Sputnik 5, formerly known as the GAM COVID vac, is being developed at the Gamela Research Institute in Moscow, Russia. It is the first and the only vaccine that has been approved till now by the Ministry of Health of the Russian Federation. Phase 1 clinical trials of the vaccine was completed in August. All the volunteers had no side effects. The vaccine is made using adenoviral vectors. Vectors are viruses that have their gene responsible for replication removed, therefore are considered extremely safe and do not pose any threat of infection. It helps the immune system to react and produce antibodies that protect us from infection. Timeline. In May 2020, the Gamela Research Institute announced that it had developed a vaccine for COVID 19. In June, phase 1 safety trials had begun. It was registered in Russia on 11th August 2020. On 27th August 2020, the phase 2 clinical trials had begun. In September, the phase 3 clinical trials began. The potential release time of the COVID vaccine might be February 2021.
Plasma therapy. As the need for COVID vaccine grows, most medical practitioners have recommended an old method for fighting the infectious disease. This treatment used is called as plasma therapy. It is a medical process where the blood is donated by recovered patients to establish antibodies that fight the infection. Plasma therapy is a medical procedure that uses the blood of a recovered patient to create antibodies on those infected individuals. This treatment uses antibodies found in the blood taken from a recovered COVID-19 patient. It is then used to treat those with severe SARS-CoV-2 infection to aid recovery.
What to do if I test positive for corona? If anyone has tested positive for corona, they should be isolated. People they have been in close contact with up to 2 days before they develop symptoms should be tested too for COVID 19. The people who have been in contact with them should stay home for 14 days. After their last exposure to that person, the people who are old and young children should be taken and isolated in health facilities to prevent transmission and to provide proper health care.
Clinical trials. Each year across the world, manufacturers and researchers complete researching and testing in hope of creating a new vaccine. The vaccine development process occurs in stages as the vaccine is carefully evaluated in the laboratory, in animals, and finally in humans. The rigor of the process ensures the safety and efficient vaccines reach the public. Two major types of studies are conducted during the vaccine development: testing in a laboratory in animals, preclinical studies, and testing in people, clinical studies. The vaccine is thoroughly tested in a laboratory and in animals before it is given to people. Clinical studies or clinical trials are research studies given to people that can answer questions about the product's safety and protective efficiency. Typical steps followed during a vaccine development: the initial research, and then the preclinical stage where the vaccine is tested on animals. Then comes the clinical stage where it is tested on humans. It has four main parts or phases. Each phase is built on the information received from the previous one, and with each phase, the number of participants increases. Finally, the vaccine can be released in the market. With this rapid spread of the virus, there is a lot of pressure to come up with a vaccine, which seems to be the only solution to the problem. However, we feel that we should not release any vaccine without following the proper steps, as it can lead to adverse effects on public health.
Till now, the research and the development of the COVID vaccine has been going very well. We hope that in the possible future, the researchers and the developers will come up with a vaccine and the pandemic will be over. Till then, wash your hands and stay safe. These are few references which we used to refer and we made this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Anusha, Girishma. Ms. Ratna, Ms. Nivedita, forum is
A
all yours.
lot, a lot of research has gone into it. I congratulate all of you for taking such in-depth information, showcasing your learning and making us understand, collating information and making us understand what is very difficult to understand. I think Ms. Nivedita will be able to do justice by framing question. Before Ms. Nivedita, you bring out your being an expert in this field. If before you bring out, I have a very simple question to ask. Why do you think some countries are not affected by COVID? You had shown a slide where there were mostly island countries. Why do you think those countries are not affected by COVID? Niharika, Anusha? You may think, and before that, Ms. Nivedita, uh, being an expert in this field, coming from background of biology, if you have any questions for our students.
I loved the presentation, and thank you for bringing me memories back from my years of studying viruses and virology, the phases of vaccines, and the way you explained how with each phase the number of the uh, people increase, and it takes 10 to 15 years to bring out that vaccine. So while all the countries are collaborating and trying to bring it out, you think that the moment the vaccine is brought out, we will all have access to the vaccine, the whole world? How would
Ma'am,
it be?
I think that it is possible if the World Health Organization takes the patent right, then all the countries work with the World Health Organization and make sure that either the vaccines are given for free or given for affordable rates. It is possible.
May it be so. That once the vaccine is out, all of us will want to get vaccinated and to be going about our lives as usual. So yeah, let's hope that works out. Good answer for that. Let's inspire the countries to collaborate.
Anusha, like, why do you think viruses survive under certain conditions, climatic conditions? And why has it become a pandemic? Coronavirus has become a
Usually viruses don't, ma'am, as per an article which we read. Ma'am, can you hear me?
yes, we can.
Ma'am, we read an article. So, as per that article, it tells that the World Health Organization told that the COVID-19 is a combination of different viruses. So, due to this, it may be able to last in all different climate conditions. And we also read that this is a man made virus.
It's controversial, so I think more research is going on. And you also, if you get to know, please keep us informed, because this is controversial, and world across, all of us are waiting to know where it has come from and why is it reacting the way it is reacting. Because what I understand, and my discussion with Dr. Chandan, there are so many strains of this virus, and they are mutating, and they are exploding. So maybe we have more unknown things to look for. So you, being the younger generation, probably you can guide us into that. And of course, Miss Nivedita is here to also guide all of us.
Oh, it will be just great for you, for us to, be hearing about your research. You continue to find out and share with us in this, very easily accessible way. I would say that you make little slideshows and put it out on your school site, because I'm sure many of us adults would like to look at the information and get some properly researched information instead of the WhatsApp Academy that we look at. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Wonderful work.
Niharika, Anusha. Very honest and hard effort. And now I will request the grade 3 teams to come on board. So while they are joining in, I will just introduce what work they have done. So they have conducted a primary research. We know that COVID-19 is changing our behavior, human behavior, and how we interact with each other. Even the culture, our everyday culture is kind of changing. So they have conducted a primary research by designing their own questionnaire, and they have gotten people from different age groups to respond to them. So of their own age group, of their parents' age group, of their grandparents' age group, and from that they have concluded, how they think world might change long after COVID is gone. So over to you, Ashley.
Sure, ma'am. Just a second.
Some nice predictive work is going on, huh? I like it.
I really love the confidence with which they are showcasing their learning journey in such a way.
Yes, clearly they have worked at it, so they have assimilated a lot of the information.
And also, Miss, I feel that this is the ideal kind of learning because it's not just something from the textbook. It is happening, they're in middle of it, and that's why they've been able to make more meaningful connections to it, I guess. It matters to them.
Yes, it matters. It's a
Am I
question
audible,
of,
ma'am?
yes,
Yes.
you are.
Actually, there is some issue here. My computer is not responding.
So can
Don't
someone
worry, Ashley. We will request Renuka to take over then and present her the presentation, please. And you guys can speak on it. Renuka, would you be able to do that?
Renika, you have to unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is visible. Ashlin, can you see?
Ashley, the presentation is visible to you, dear? I think she's experiencing some issues at her end. No problem. Sumedha, can you just take us through it till Ashleen is
Yeah,
ready, if she can be?
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello. A very good afternoon to everyone present here.
We are Ashley, Sumedha, Ananya, Divyanshi, Renuka, Niveta, Samanvita, and Yukti.
So why are we here?
Yes, we are here to take part in CapSarvekshana. And our topic for the day is primary research on socio-cultural effect of COVID-19.
What is that? What is that?
Ananya, Sumedha, just continue. Ashleen had to leave. She has connectivity issues. So you have to represent her in this forum. Please do that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Let me tell you.
Socio means environment and cultural means a tradition. So today we'll be representing how COVID-19 is affecting our normal tradition which is happening in day-to-day life. So let's get started with it.
This was the process followed by us for the survey. First, we chose the topics. This was then followed by preparing a questionnaire.
The third step was collecting responses.
Then we tabulated this data. And next, we graphically organized this data.
Then finally, we analyzed the responses.
So before going on to the graphs that we made, we would like to show you the Google form made by us. We had 60 respondents for this Google form, 15 respondents from each age group.
So now we'll guide you through the graphic organization of the data.
The COVID-19 pandemic had led many functions and events to be declined. We know that it is not possible to proceed with every event virtually. That is why the reason for decline. These events such as parties, ceremonies usually have gatherings and that is not to be followed during these times. The very first question in our questionnaire was, have you ever been in any of the following situations due to the lockdown? The options provided to the respondents were
unable to attend any birth or death of your dear ones, unable to attend any wedding ceremonies, unable to attend religious festivals and other programs. The most chosen option was other programs. It is not only weddings, festivals, and birth or death ceremonies have gatherings. There are other such events too. The probable reason for this being the most chosen could be absence in type of family events. Family trips can also be good as examples for this as lockdown doesn't permit them. The second most chosen option was unable to attend religious festivals. We are all very respectful to our religious festivals, and so were our respondents. Religious festivals are conducted to remind the culture and worship the Almighty. Due to lockdown, everything was shut, and these events could not be celebrated. The last two options were almost equally opted. Many people nowadays, when organizing such events, advise the people to abstain from being apart to prevent the spread of the disease. Not only this, and also the nationwide lockdown has prevented the people from attending such functions. Due to the current pandemic, none of our routine was similar as before. We had to drastically change to this virtual world to avoid the spread of the novel coronavirus. So now coming on to the second question of our questionnaire. Was it easy for you to switch your life from physical to virtual? And the given choices were yes, no, took time but could change. Most people chose the third option, took time but could change. As we all know, it is quite difficult for we people to get switched over to this new platform of work and learning as this pandemic struck us. But since we had no other choice and as life had to move on, slowly people switched over to this new system. However, since a greater percent of the people who had to switch over to this virtual world were the younger generation, and since the virtual platform fascinated them, this transformation was easy. On the other hand, a few felt it difficult too. Now I would like to invite Devyanshi to walk you through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Ananya. Most of the schools have adopted the online platform of education and others work from home. In context to this, we asked our respondents our third question, which was if the school, colleges, workplaces reopens, would you prefer joining back to lead a normal life in this pandemic? The option provided were yes, no, or maybe. Option provided were yes, no, or maybe. The most chosen option was no. A probable reason could be health safety issue as the pandemic would be still on. The second most chosen option was maybe. This could be due to uncertainty whether the future would allow staying indoors. For example, the need to keep earning might increase and lead to going back to physical work. The least opted was yes. Many people would need more resources or student would be missing their schools. That might be reason for this being opted. But as most of the people are cautious about health, the number is less. Now I would request Sumedha to continue with her explanation.
Thank you, Divyanshi. As you've already come to this virtual world of living, it is also important to see our upgrading or improvement, maybe in schooling or education, earning, growth, etc. So, relating this on our topic, our fourth question on the questionnaire was: does the online platform make your education or earning more complex or difficult to go with? The options provided were yes, no, partially. The most chosen option was partially, as in few people were not sure about the progressing in their own profession due to the sudden change because of this pandemic. The second least opted option was no, as in people from all different age groups were able to see their progress and improve in it. The least opted option was yes, as people from all age groups were not able to compare the progress from physical to virtual and felt difficult in doing so. Now let's see the last question of the questionnaire, which will be presented by my teammates.
The last question. Due to COVID 19, I had difficulty in.
The first option given was shopping. Shopping for groceries is the biggest issue during a crisis. The food materials are very necessary in order to maintain health. People who opted for this option might have faced difficulty in shopping as online shopping is not that safe in terms of money and transportation. This is because bank account safety matters a lot and the product might have been transported via places affected by the disease.
And the second choice given was approaching health centers. Approaching health centers was a difficult task for about 17 people here in this pandemic period. This may be due to the restrictions imposed on traveling as well as closing of several clinics in this period.
As we know that entertainment is what everyone likes and anything without entertainment is boring. So in this question, the third option was entertainment. As we know that in present situation, having any source of physical entertainment is not safe as they all really include gathering like playing, going to park, visiting friends' house, etc. So we had specifically asked that in theatre as even that plays an important role in part of entertainment as we all like it, and many people from all different age groups are not able to use any source of entertainment.
And the last option, none of the above. People opted for this option because they did not find any difficulty due to this COVID-19 pandemic.
Now I would like to invite Yukti to continue with the presentation.
Now, I like to share how will the pandemic affect the future world. The pandemic will affect the future world in different aspects, such as work, residentials, the entertainment, traveling.
Work. After the pandemic, we will have to make some big adjustments. Let's start with how we work. People typically used to work in an office, and governments are recommending people to stagger their shift time. The idea is that staggering shift time can reduce crowding in public areas. So people might do their first couple of hours of work from home or work in a nearby coffee shop. Before heading into the office, people have to check a workplace app to make sure there is space for work. Once they're in the office, they will have few cubicles, more meeting spaces, and touchless technology that gets rid of having to touch things like elevator buttons and soap dispensers. Residential. There is a concept called the 15-minute city, which is being discussed around the world. The idea is that everything we need, like grocery stores, parks, and schools, are all within a short walk from a home. Retail. Many of the jobs that cannot be done remotely are in the service industry. Take retailers for example. The pandemic has made online shopping not just more convenient, but necessary as people try to reduce going out. The future may look like me adding clothes to an online shopping cart instead of going to a physical store. The long-term benefits for retailers with an online presence lies in the data they can collect about their customers. Traveling. Airlines are fighting for survival as they are expected almost $350 billion this year. Truth 3. Air travel will not be back soon. If the pandemic goes down to one of the worst scenarios, then we will have to expect that our travel routines will change on another level.
Entertainment.
Business-led cinemas are merging into entertainment. Arts and culture is a big market in many cities. Those entertainment experiences will probably utilize more outdoor spaces with the help of technology. Like when we go out to eat, smart technology can help us extend restaurant areas into streets after rush hours by reading the traffic. When we go to a big outdoor concert, we might use our cell phones to guide us through a touch-free checking process and navigate the least crowded route through the venue. This journey in this city shows the future that could be lot more digitally integrated, cleaner and less crowded than before.
Before and after COVID 19, public office meeting and online meeting. Before the pandemic, most of the office meetings were done in offices. But after the COVID 19 pandemic, we finally learned that how a meeting could have been just an email. After the COVID 19 pandemic, we will definitely see a rise in remote working. Our companies might also give the employees more time to work at homes.
Shaking hands. Namaste. Before, people were used to shake their hands to greet people, but during the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a rise in not touching each other and therefore reduction in shaking hands. So, there might be an increase in doing namaste for greeting people even after the pandemic. Restaurant food, home food. Before, people used to go to restaurants frequently, but during the pandemic, restaurants are closed and people are avoiding eating outside food. This might impact in the future, therefore, we might reduce eating outside food but instead eating home food.
Conclusion: COVID 19 has caused a devastating effect on both society and cultural practices and mainly impacted the future. We all want things to go back to usual, but instead of waiting for this to be over, we should now look at how we can get the most out of it together. We should all focus on how to create a more resilient and more efficient world. But at our level, we can follow a few precautions like washing our hands, social distancing, wearing masks to prevent the spread of virus, and mainly thank the COVID 19 workers who are working day and night tirelessly. Remember that your small mistake can cause a huge loss. So stay positive and test negative. Thank you.
Thank you, girls. Wonderful work. Ms. Ratna, Ms. Nivedita. They had the video that they were showing, they had designed that video themselves. So they are embracing technology in a big way. So I would request you to ask them some questions.
I loved the closing slide of, stay positive to stay negative. What was that? I loved it. What was it, Angeline?
Ma'am, it was
Test
stay,
negative, stay
stay
positive.
positive, test negative.
Stay positive, text negative. I think I'm going to write it on my computer and keep it on a post-it there. So I completely enjoyed.
The catchy
I
tagline.
totally enjoyed listening to all of you. I'm wondering whether if you are given more time, what all will you check out? Was there anything that you thought that, oh, if I had 2 days more, I would do some more primary research on this aspect? Was there anything that you felt you had to leave because of time?
Ma'am, like maybe we could have collected data from a larger number of people.
Yes, ma'am. The availability was there, but we didn't have time, so we could not collect so many responses.
Right.
And also, we thought that we could have designed more relevant questions so that it can be a precise survey.
Good. So next time, maybe. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
But what you did itself was actually very information good, and it's very engaging data actually. I enjoyed looking at how people have responded and what I would have responded as. So it was very engaging. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Um, uh, like Ashwin and Ananya, I would like to ask you if you can tell us something about your learning experience or learning outcome or the skills that you have learned more doing this primary research.
Ma'am,
So first
actually,
we
we
only
learned like
how can we create a survey? We learned that skill, which was the main skill, and we also had enhancement in our public speaking skills.
Ananya, would you like
and
to
then
add
ma'am how to distribute the question each wise.
Because
Yes, ma'am.
data analysis, research, all these are 21st century skills. And if you have your thought process around the way you have developed your presentation, I think you have a long way to go. What do you
Yes.
think, Suchishmita?
A great compliment coming from you, Miss Ratna. Yes, I surely believe that they have a long way to go. And thank you, Ashleen, Ananya, Renuka, Niveta. They're not on the forum, but wonderful work done. And obviously, it goes without saying that the confidence that you are showing while presenting on a public forum is more than I could have done at this age. So well done. Thank you so much.
Because
Yes, Ms.
it's
Ratna.
about confidence building, not just competency building, it's about confidence building. And you all are doing very well in that. The way, Ashlyn, today you have managed the crisis and come back, it's amazing. Keep it up.
Thank you, ma'am.
Resilience and presence of mind. Right, Ashley? Way to go. Good job.
Thank you,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank you so much, girls. While the next group comes in, I'm going to just introduce what they have done. Um, So this group had chosen a problem for their presentation. The problem was that if now your school opens up in near future, like coming 3 months, 2 months, how would you want to redesign your school interiors and your school campus such that we are ready with all kinds of precautionary measures so that we can combat COVID-19 and still come to school? So that was their problem, and that's what they have worked on. So over to you, Michelle.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. We are Misha, Srijini and Shishira presenting our CapSarvekshana problem-based learning. We have designed our school environment such that the norms of social distancing, hygiene, and safety can be followed. We have done three main steps for coming thus far. First, we did our research and analysis, then, we did brainstorming and drafting, followed by the execution of the plan. We have taken all of our information from the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization has shared a few steps to be taken to reopen the school and keep them open. They are the epidemiology of COVID 19, the benefits and risks of opening the school, collaboration with local health authorities, and capacity of schools. They have also shared a few prevention and control measures to be prepared and put in place in schools. They are community level measures, policy, practice and infrastructure, safety and security, hygiene and daily practices, and screening and care for the students and staff, and social distancing. They have done a recommendation of the age groups to wear masks. 5 years and below do not have to wear mask. 6 to 11 years have to wear mask by taking the risk-based approach. 12 years and above have to wear mask according to the national mask guidelines. They have suggested a few tips on the school ventilation and air conditioning use. The schools containing school ventilation have to have an increase in airflow, which is present in our school Capstone High. The schools having air conditioning should be inspected, maintained, and cleaned. The control measures to be put in place in schools are as follows. The students' health should be monitored. Safe drinking water should be ensured for all students. The cleanliness of the school environment has to be maintained. Waste needs to be collected, stored, and disposed in a proper manner. The students should be encouraged to cough and sneeze into a tissue or their elbow, and to avoid touching eyes, nose, face, and mouth. We have done two main developments in schools of places. They are Norway and Germany. Seems like my friend Shishira is having network issue, so I will take over from here. Norway schools during COVID-19. They have used automatic hand sanitizers at the entrance. They maintain social distancing in assemblies. Norway has used social distancing in classroom. They do temperature checkups. And they have automatic hand sanitizer and pedestal hand sanitizers.
Now I would like to share Germany's school during COVID-19. They maintain hygiene regulation. Schools made a rule for obligatory masks. Students are advised to maintain social distancing in classrooms. They check the body temperature of the student. Students are guided to maintain social distancing in schools and also public areas.
Now I will share the analysis after our survey. The first point was the architecture design was not changed after the pandemic. The second thing we noticed was the preventive measures were taken. And the third thing was that add-ons were done in interior design. Now I would like to explain our areas of focus. They are school environment, classroom design, and restroom design. Now I would like to share a video on basis of all the work that we have done. Seems like my friend is still facing network issues, so I will take over from here. I would like to explain about the school environment. We have come up with problems and solutions for our school environment. Temperature can be checked at the main gate and pedestrian sanitizers can be used. Speakers can be installed in classrooms such that assembly is done by maintaining social distancing. The cleaning of the railings have to be done frequently and children should be maintained to keep their hands at the back such that contact with their hands is not made. Games with social distancing can be played such that no one makes hand contact with each other. A school rule should be made such that if a child is sick, they cannot come to school. It's all about finding the calm in the chaos.
Now I would like to share the classroom design plan. Children should maintain 6 feet distance and follow social distancing. Housekeeping staff can clean the classrooms but can also switch to artificial intelligence, but it has a high economical cost and also the huge negative impact on the employment. Schools can be split into groups of two with different time slots to come to school. Students are advised not to put their items in cubbies, rather they can keep it in under the desk. We can have automatic hand sanitizers in the classroom such that hygiene is maintained and the protection from the virus is done. The classroom door should be wide open such that students won't have to make direct hand contact with the doors. Great things are done by the series of the small things brought together.
Now I would like to explain about our classroom design. We can keep the main door wide open such that no one makes hand contact with the door handle. If someone does touch the door handle, they can sanitize their hands. We can have automatic hand wash dispensers such that no one makes hand contact. We can have housekeeping staff and robots to clean. Students should be encouraged to maintain proper hygiene in the washrooms. Children should be advised to maintain social distancing in restrooms. The housekeeping staff or the robots can spray pre-safe on the toilet such that hygiene is maintained. Rules and regulations need to be made and strictly followed by the students not to make hand contact. Automatic taps can be installed such that no one makes hand contact with the taps. We are in this together and we will get through this together. Now my friends will continue their presentation by using Minecraft.
Ms. Ratna, you can ask Michelle's group some questions on the work that they have done. We are still expecting some of the other students to join. No, I think Harshil and all is here, so we will continue and we will ask the questions at the end.
Right.
Thank you. Yes, Harshil. Shrenik, you can take it up from here.
Ma'am, can you see the presentation?
Not as yet. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ramesh, and I'm here with my team. And today we built an online simulation showcasing our school and how you should take the rules in it. So now start to take off in the classroom. But before that, I would like to tell you a few words. Digital literacy is one of the most important skills in the 21st century. We embrace technology in a very big way during our remote learning classes through the lockdown. Minecraft is educational because it enhances creativity, problem solving, self direction, collaboration, and other life skills in the classroom. Minecraft complements reading, writing, math, and even history learnings. We use Minecraft to develop competition of the school campus to show how we can follow the rules of social distancing and hygiene. It was a really tough time, trust me. It took lots of time, but we bonded over and made it quicker. So now start to take over.
Shrenik, I think Sharat is
Uh,
not here. So you
he's
just
not
take up
taking over.
from here. Yeah.
So of course, when entering a classroom, you have to sanitize, as there'll be sanitization huts everywhere in order to make sure you're always clean and stay safe. Once you enter the classrooms, you'll notice that the cubicles filled up to the brim with glass. This is to prevent heavy wind pressure going from each desk to each desk. This helps in either helping us go from each desk, that is, in simple words, that you don't come in contact with each other. You can keep all your belongings, that is, your shoes, your pencils, your pouches, everything. There'll be a designated place for it. And if you don't know this, even the teacher's table is covered with glass. You're most likely asked to raise your hand and not move out of your seat. So now we have the play area, which will be coming up soon.
First, we have to walk on the white blocks to maintain social distancing. Before entering a play area, first we should sanitize our hands and then we should enter the play area. People who are playing can play on the ground. People who are watching can only sit on the red blocks to maintain social distancing. After playing, we should sanitize our hands.
We should sit in between the glass blocks to prevent spreading of infection. All the people who are playing certain characters backstage will be disinfected if they come in contact to each other. While going out, we should sanitize our hands.
Okay, so this is the badminton court. So whenever you're going out down to the basement facilities, you're advised to play in pairs because more than that is mostly unsafe. And whenever you come to the basement, make sure you leave your yoga mats there because taking of it again can spread the virus. Now we'll be going out to the bathroom. As you know, we use the bathroom normally, place of sanitization. It'll be the exactly same as how you normally use it. But the only difference is you're expected to clean everything twice with either soap or hand wash or sanitizer. Basically the same thing. Just make sure to do it twice and rinse properly. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Thanks for watching.
So, Ms. Ratna, Ms. Niv, they've tried to use Minecraft to simulate their campus, and quite a few number of hours have been put into it. Shani, can you share how many hours did you require to design this simulation?
16 hours with research.
So,
And,
Ms. Ratna, Ms. Niv, ask
and
a few questions.
And Shanik, what were the limitations that you faced using Minecraft app? If you can share your experience with us.
Yes, ma'am. So when we started, we thought it'd be really difficult as it was, but we started to get over it and felt more confident as we went on. Well, the limitations were that you only found cubes in Minecraft. You couldn't get carved out structures. Those were probably the only limitations we faced. But it was really interesting and fun. That's it, ma'am.
Nivedita?
I can clearly see how much the children enjoyed doing this project. I mean, can anybody share how did you like this project? Can you compare with some other project that you did? What was your experience of this problem-based learning?
I mean, this is just like a history project, both fun and enthusiastic. But there are these other projects where we felt like, we could help ourselves with better and more interests. So this time we felt like very interesting because we could do it at our home at our own time.
So maybe it is a good one for us as teachers, that whenever we are looking at a task, we can ask the children, what kind of problem-based learning would you like to because spending 16 hours to work on something, and the other, I could see the Michelle and Dhyanesh, and the way they
Michelle,
are,
Ananya.
Harshil, Ananya, how they worked, Darshan, how they worked on what is a problem and what is a solution. They all looked like very viable solutions. So clearly, you guys have gone through some, iterations and discussions to come to a viable solution. These solutions didn't look like, oh, it's too difficult to do this solution, or it can't be done in capstone solution. They were all solutions which looked very, very workable. I'm very, very impressed. It was very engaging. Absolutely. I think you can submit this project report to Mr. Shabazz, and he can figure out how to.
The admin team, when school reopens, we can probably use these.
Yes. And this can be this entire group can be your task force for implementation of school opening protocol.
I want to ask Michelle one question. Michelle, how do you think we can connect it to the 21st century skills with the learning process? What have you learned through the journey?
Ma'am, I feel like by the 21st century skills, we have learned many things throughout the process. Like we have learned about critical thinking as we have done problem solving, interpretation, and analysis while going through the project. And we have also used our creativity to express our design and our imagination. And we also used our collaboration by working together and our communication by sharing our ideas.
That's great. I am really amazed to see how beautifully you have changed those slides. We gave you a feedback and how quickly you have changed them and how beautiful they looked, Michelle.
Thank you, ma'am.
You have learned to take feedback very, very positively and creatively. All of you.
Thank you.
Great work.
So thank you, students.
This looks like a master's level.
Yes, and we'll definitely
master's level work.
And we'll definitely share it with admin team, Miss Nivedita.
Absolutely.
And this is a good lesson, Miss Ratna. Also, I feel that we do try to do too much of thinking on our own. We have got such beautiful minds in our school. We should let them think for us.
We have a team to help us.
So thank you, boys and girls, for your wonderful and engaging presentation.
Yep. This would have happened. Claps would have happened in a real world. So give yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Clap for yourself.
Very good. Really, really enjoyed it.
So while students, the last and the final group is these three girls from grade 10 have looked into the economic impact of COVID-19. We know that, economy, GDP contraction, unemployment, it's top of the mind right now. So they have done some research on that and they're going to present their learning from it. Over to you, Nikita, Khushi.
Yes, ma'am. We'll just wait for Riya.
Yeah. Cheers, Joy. You can start.
Ma'am, can you see the presentation?
Yeah. Cheers, Joy.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. My name is Nikita. My teammates are Khushi and Riya, and we are here today to present to you about the global economic impact of COVID-19. We have divided our presentation into two parts. First, we'll be looking into the impact of COVID-19 on global economy and then take a closer look on the Indian economy. Over to Kushi.
Thank you, Nikita. So, the year 2020 has been the worst of 21st century. The chaos and the destruction can be seen everywhere. The pandemic is not only destroying lives, but also the livelihoods of many people around the world. So, now let us take a look at the containment policy and the global recession. So, the red line represents the COVID cases without the containment policy, and you can see a steep rise in the graph. But when it comes to when there was no containment policy, the COVID cases, as you can see in the blue line, shows a shows a lesser impact. So now when we come to the severity of recession, the red line represents the recession without containment policies. And the blue line represents recession with containment policies and shows a greater impact on the GDP, global GDP. So it has both sides, two sides. So if there was no containment policy, then the cases would have risen, but the global GDP wouldn't have been affected much. But if there was containment policy, then the cases wouldn't have risen, but the global GDP would have been affected much. Over to Ria.
Thank you, Khushi. Gross domestic products, also known as GDP, is the total value of goods and services produced by a country in a particular period. The time frame over which GDP is measured can be a year or a quarter. GDP is an indicator that is used to determine the economic health of a country. So this graph shows the GDP growth estimates published by International Monetary Fund, also known as IMF, before and during the COVID-19 crisis. From studying the graph, we can see that the IMF is projecting about 4% to 5% contraction in global GDP. According to the data published by CEIC, also known as Census and Economic Information Center, the above graph shows the actual contraction of GDP in the first quarter, that are from the months of April to June. Shows the amount of contraction of GDPs of the world's major economies. So as we can see in this data, with with India at minus 23.9%, followed by UK at minus 21.7%, France with minus 18.9%, Italy with minus 17.7%, Canada with minus 13%, Germany with minus 11.3%, Japan with minus 9.9%, US with minus 9.1%, and last but not the least, China with 3.2%. So China has shown a growth of 3.2% because by this time, China has been able to overcome the initial crisis since this information has been shown from the first quarter, that are from the months April to June.
The line graph above represents the comparative study of GDP contraction in 1991 global recession flowing through the first Gulf War and the 2008 and 2009 recession due to the real estate crisis in the US and even the current recession caused by the pandemic. The effect contraction in GDP for COVID-19 is represented by the red line here, which represents the worst situation compared to the others. Now, let us take a look at the unemployment rates which are caused due to the COVID 19. Unemployment occurs when a person is actively searching for employment and is unable to find work and is often used as a measure of the health of the economy. The above graph shows the unemployment rates of some major economies across the globe. We observe that the employment is about 4 to 5% globally. Travel and the tourism and even the hospitality industry is among the worst hit because of the travel restriction in wake of the spread of the deadly pandemic. Added to that, the cancellation of sporting events like NBA, National Basketball Association, IPL, which is the Indian Premier League, and even the NFL, which is National Fertilizers Limited. The Premier League 2020, which attracts millions of audience both locally and globally, also was impacted adversely. As we can see in the data gathered here, if we look at the Asia and Pacific, we can see that in the year 2019, it had the expansion of 4%, but in the year of 2020, between January and April, it had a contraction of minus 51%. And if we look at America, in the year 2019, it had expansion of 2%, but then in the year of to 2020, between January and April, when the COVID-19 hit the globe, it had contraction of minus 36%.
Now we will be taking a closer look at the impact of COVID-19 on the Indian economy.
Now, this data was released by the National Statistical Office on 31st August 2020 for the estimate of the gross domestic product, also known as GDP, for the first quarter of the year 2020 to 2021. So, this contraction of GDP, or the lowest growth ever, has, when you compare the last 4 decades, has been the lowest. And all sectors except the agriculture sectors have shown a negative growth in this period. India's GDP has contracted by 23.9% in the first quarter of 2020. But if you consider that there was a 5% growth in India's GDP last year, then we can say that the contraction of GDP is about 29% during the first So the reason for this was obvious as there was nationwide lockdown. So the period of April
Kushi must be facing some problem.
Yes, ma'am. She has internet issues.
Okay, can you take on, Nikita?
Yeah, Nikita, continue.
Ma'am, to the same slide or the next?
You can continue with the next slide. Kushi will take over whenever she regains her connection.
Sure, ma'am. Sure. Ma'am, this was also being explained by Kushi.
You can present it. It's okay. She's trying to get back. So we can wait a few seconds.
Yes,
ma'am. Nikita, you can continue from this. Nikita, Arya, just take over because I think she has lost connection.
Ma'am, is it fine if we leave the slides to the end so that she can come and
No, you continue because then we will lose the flow of the presentation. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
So this one, I think, is talking about the different sectors in the Indian economy. So continue on that.
As you can see in the data gathered here, the most affected sector was the construction sector, which had about minus 50% contraction. And next was the trade and the hotels and other services, which had about minus 47 of contraction. Next is the manufacturing sector, which had minus 39% of contraction. Next comes the mining, which had about minus 23% of contraction. But if we look at the agriculture sector, we can say that it has increased in 0.4% in this quarter as compared to the previous year.
So the unemployment rate in Indian economy was at 8.5% in June 2020. However, we see a steep spike in the unemployment rate at around 23% during the total lockdown period.
The Sustainable Development Goals, which are also known as the Global Goals, were adopted by the United Nations member states in 2015 as a universal call to action to the end of poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. The world was making some progress towards achieving these goals. However, the COVID-19 crisis has pushed them off completely off track. Although the novel coronavirus affects every person and every community, it does not so equally. Instead, it has exposed and further increased to the existing inequalities and injustice.
According to a report published by United recently, an estimated 71 million people are expected to be pushed back into extreme poverty in 2020, the first rise in global poverty since 1998. Lost incomes, limited social protection, and rising prices means that those who were previously secure could find themselves at a risk of poverty and hunger. Due to the underemployment and unemployment, nearly 1.6 billion are vulnerable workers in the informal economy. Half the global workforce may be significantly affected, with their incomes estimated to have fallen by 60% in the first month of the crisis. More than 1 billion slum dwellers worldwide were acutely at risk from the effects of COVID 19, suffering from a lack of adequate housing, no running water at home, sharing toilets, little or no waste management systems, overcrowding public transport, and limited access to formal health care facilities.
School closures have kept 90% of students worldwide out of school and caused over 370 million children to miss out school meals that they depend on. Lack of access to computers and internet at home means the remote learning is out of reach for many. About 70 countries reported moderate to severe disruptions or a total suspension of childhood vaccination services during March and April of 2020. As more families fall into extreme poverty, children in poor and disadvantaged communities are at much greater risk of child labor, child marriage, and even child trafficking. In fact, the global gains in reducing child labor are likely to be reserved for the first time in 20 years. I would request Kushi to carry on from here.
So now let us see the solutions proposed by the leading economists. So more than 40 high-profile economists, including the IMF chief economist Geeta Gopinath and the former President Barack Obama's top economic advisor Jason Furman, have contributed to an e-book from the Center of Economic Policy to it, and in which they urge the government to act quickly and do whatever it takes to keep the lights on. So many businesses have affected major contraction in revenue. So the government needs to come up with policies that save these businesses. Some schemes should be taken up by the government in order to ensure that people spend even if they are out of employment. Thus, we can avoid major contraction in customer spending. Increase public investment and healthcare spending. This will help on building the necessary infrastructure required to fight the COVID 19 crisis, and this also generates employment in the public sector.
We research and collect our data from the official websites of IMF, World Bank, United Nations, and the Central Statistical Office of the Government of India in order to gather authentic data for our presentation. Thank you for your patience listening.
Thank you, girls. Ms. Nivedita, Ms. Ratna, sustainability development goal is your favorite, so you can ask them some questions about that. As we know that COVID-19 has hurt every one of us, but those who are the poorest of the poor, they are the most hard hit. So your thoughts on that,
So
Ms.
maybe I would like Ms. Nivedita to ask, and I have one question for the students. You can think, and after Ms. Nivedita, maybe one of you can answer. What do you think are the steps that government of India has taken to support the teeming millions who are fight the COVID crisis? So, like one of you have this thought, and let Ms. Nivedita ask her questions.
Yeah, one of the most moving images that we have seen during this COVID, lockdown and after that is of the migrant laborers and their little children. So one wonders what children like you could suggest or do or think about for this kind of a situation in which people like us adults can support you. I It's not an answer that I'm seeking. I'm sure when you watched those little children with the migrant laborers, it moved most of us, and I think it didn't leave any one of us thinking how helpless their situation is, and in which ways can we do something to support our fellow human beings. So I'd like to leave this thought with you, because you have understood, you have seen, you have felt for these children. Um, what is it something that one could think of, and how we can work together as adults and children towards this problem?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Ratna, you can go on. Yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to leave this thought with the children.
Okay. So my question was, how do you think a government has provided support for these people? Kushi? In our sustainable development, millennium development goal, we had spoken about a lot of areas where government of India has taken some steps. So if you can connect your classroom learning to what are the steps that the government of India has taken to support the teeming millions to fight this crisis at this point.
Ma'am, so Government of India has taken a scheme, so in which it provides 13 crore to the farmers, helping the farmers to overcome this crisis, and it has also reduced the limitation period of the uh, like giving the paying the income tax and also the EMI. So this would help the people.
Now, what about food security? Would you like to discuss about the food security? What are the benefits that like government of India had given to the people of India? If you talk about the rationing, the public distribution system,
Is it fine if we get back to you about that, ma'am?
yeah, because I think the people of India were given 6 months ration free, promised to give them 6 months of ration free so that they could overcome the crisis. Because as Ms. Nivedita said, our problem was the migrant laborers. They were stuck at different places with the government declaring total lockdown overnight. So they were stuck at different places, and with lot of problems, they could get back to their native. And it's and also for uh, people who were abroad, the government made arrangements for Bande Bharat, the flights, which got them back to India. So it was just not the teeming millions who are below poverty line, but also people who are all across the world, originating from India, who wanted to come back during this crisis.
Yes, ma'am. And
Yes, ma'am.
I would also like to add a point that when the lockdown had recently started, a lot of people were suffering since they weren't getting their rations, and a lot of families were hungry, and they were scared. They didn't know what would happen to them. But thankfully, a lot of people came forward to help the other people, to give them free rations of 5 kgs of every single substance, like important stuff, like dal, 5 kgs of dal, 5 kgs of rice, and all the essential goods that everybody needs in their daily life. So by this, it has helped a lot of people, and we are so grateful that we actually got the opportunity to help the other people. We just all we want is a smile on their faces.
Right.
So here, Ms. Ratna, I would like to just add on to what Ria has said, that whenever there's a crisis, we always look towards the government. And yes, government has got a lot to do, but we cannot, like we are aware of our rights as citizens of India. Um, Meanwhile, we should also be aware about our responsibilities. And I'm very, very proud that our students of Capstone realize that in a crisis, a little bit that all of us can do can make a difference. And I would, that's a wonderful note to end our webinar with, I feel. So thank you,
I would
girls.
just share one thing. Since we were talking about migrant laborers, and we are in the 21st century where creativity is a major thing, I would like to share one screen. I just got it. If we are talking about WhatsApp Academy, this has come into my WhatsApp Academy. Across India, we are celebrating Dasera, and Dasera is the time when people try to bring in their creativity to represent in the art form. So, and it is always theme based, whatever is current, relevant situation. I'll just try to project one screen. Just give me a moment. Uh, I am challenged. So
You can raise your mobile to the camera. I think we can see that picture very well. The Durga with the
Durga.
migrant.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So can you see it? No. Just a minute. Then I'll raise my picture.
We'll do low tech on high
Can
tech.
you see it?
Yeah, you just show it. Yeah, put it close to the camera.
Yeah. So this is Durga with her child in her lap. So this is the artist imagination of the COVID crisis. So it is a real life situation, and Durga Puja is being celebrated now because it offers economic sustenance for a huge mass of population in West Bengal and rest of India. So their whole yearly income comes from this festivity. And that's why even we had been discussing about whether we should stop these festivities gathering because it promotes, but then with social distancing, with people taking proper care of themselves, we should carry on with certain cultural uh, like uh, uh, festivities, because they are source of sustenance. If we are talking about GDP, if we are talking about economic sustainability, these provide people with their livelihood. So I congratulate all of you for taking such a heavy topic and doing it so eloquently. Congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well said.
Obviously, the topic was googly for grade 10s, but you managed it well. So congratulations. And
Very well.
so with that, we will come to an end of our webinar. It was wonderful interacting with you, Ms. Nivedita, as usual. Your insights always leaves us more enlightened. Thank you, Ms. Ratna. Thank you, girls. And we will sign off.
And today is the end of our second term. From tomorrow, we break out for our autumn holidays. We come back to join on 27th of October to start our term 2. So I
All
think it
right.
was a lovely way to conclude our term 1.
Agree.
So enjoy
Thank
your
you.
Dasara break.
Yes. Enjoy your break, girls. You deserve it.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.
All of you, all the presenters who were
Of
there
course.
for today's presentation. Credit goes to all of you, your teachers, and most importantly, Ms. Suchishmita for guiding you through this learning.
It's always a learning with all of them. I'm learning more than they are learning from me. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am, for giving us this opportunity to do or express our works, ma'am.
You're most welcome.
Okay, signing off for today.